Hello and welcome to a very special edition of ET Now Startup Central, the first and the only daily show in India dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Krishna Kumar coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios. We do have a special show, and that's on one man, Nikesh Arora, who has exited Softbank's position that he held as President and COO. Chandra.
It's really a bowl from the blue, Krishna, considering, it comes just a day after an independent committee of Softbank's board rubbished allegations against Nikesh Arora. But today, Softbank has said that Nikesh Arora will quit Softbank, but that he will continue in the role of advisor for a year. Now, in the last 2 hours, Nikesh Arora has been tweeting answers to, questions raised by various members of the community, because this obviously has come as a huge shock, because, he was one of the most prolific backers as far as Indian startups are concerned. Softbank in the last couple of years has invested nearly $2 billion in India. And their portfolio, of course, includes the likes of Snapdeal, Ola, Housing, InMobi, Grofers, the list goes on. Now, Nikesh Arora, in response to tweets asking, if this was because of these allegations, he said it clearly wasn't because of that. And even Softbank, in a very clear statement, says that it's because of the timeline difference between Nikesh Arora and Softbank founder Masayoshi Son. Now, while Softbank founder Masayoshi Son had anointed Nikesh Arora his successor, clearly now Masayoshi Son feels that he's fit enough to continue for the next decade, and Nikesh doesn't have to take charge in the next year or two, and that's not something that Nikesh was open with. That's the obvious reason sort of coming out of this whole argument. But again, considering Masayoshi Son was, such a strong backer of Nikesh, even through all this board review, it really remains to be seen if that review influenced this decision a lot, because, it takes a lot for a Japanese company to announce an Indian as its potential successor. Whether those allegations played on the minds, that's something that we'll have to analyze, Krishna.
Absolutely. And Chandra, this has to be the season of exits, unexpected exits, sort of unceremonious exits. We just had the Rexit just a couple of days ago, and now you have Nikesh Arora. In fact, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, our good friend from Paytm, had tweeted saying that it's a big setback for the Indian startup ecosystem. Considering the kind of bets that Softbank has had in India over the last 1 year, especially all the ones you've mentioned, especially the over $600 million investment into Snapdeal and, just about everything. Vijay Shekhar Sharma of Paytm has just tweeted saying that that's a big setback for the Indian startup ecosystem. Best wishes and hoping even bigger impact with the next. And there is a reason why we're doing this special show over here. It's not because Softbank is owns the third largest mobile company in Japan, but mainly because they've been bullish on India ever since Nikesh Arora was anointed as the head of their international operations. Keep in mind, Softbank split their operations into two. One is the slower but slower growing profit-making mobile operations in Japan, and the other are all their international businesses, their international ventures, which includes all their investments into startups across the world. And ever since Nikesh Arora took over, the focus has certainly been on India, and we've seen that happen over the last 1 year. And that's what Chandra was just listing out. In fact, we just hosted him as well in our last Economic Times Awards for Corporate Excellence, where he won Indian of the Year. So Nikesh Arora means a lot as far as the Indian startup ecosystem is concerned, and that's the reason why we have a very special set of guests joining us from India startup ecosystem to understand and analyze what this big exit means for startups here in India, isn't it, Chandra? We do have Mohan Kumar of Norwest Venture Partners, we do have K. Ganesh, and we do have Mahesh Murthy as well, don't we, Chandra?
That's right, Krishna. Three very special guests. All of them have experience in entrepreneurship and investing. I guess that's why they are best placed to really give us perspective on this. But let me really take it to Mohan Kumar of Norwest. Sir, thank you so much for joining us in this special edition of ET Now Startup Central. As a venture capitalist, your own take on Nikesh Arora's surprise exit from Softbank.
Yeah, Chandra, I think it was a surprise given that he had a lot of momentum going, right, in the last 1 year, and also the support he got from Son over the last 1 year. So it was really a surprise. Other than that, I don't know what happened, but it was a surprise to me. And he was one of, he did a lot of investments in India last 1 year, okay? So I think people will miss him, people especially companies trying to raise a large amount of capital. They will miss him, and hope SoftBank continues the investment focus in India and not stop here.
Right. Mahesh Murthy, you're someone who's very candid. Your own take on what this exit means and its larger implications for the startup ecosystem?
Mr. Mohan Kumar, if we have you, I just wanted to understand, how much of a setback is it for the Indian startup ecosystem?
Yeah, I think my view is Indian startup ecosystem is quite large. A lot of players. Last count, at least like 300, 400 plus investors out here, right? So I don't think it's a setback or anything, okay? Obviously, it'll miss a person who was taking big bets, okay? But I think Indian startup ecosystem will continue to move on. I don't think it'll have any material effect.
Mohan, just one thing, has Norwest had an opportunity to really work with SoftBank in some of its follow-on investments in India? And from that perspective, what could the impact be? Because a lot of its investee companies will go for follow-on rounds. I mean, whether you, look at Ola or Snapdeal, if they were counting on SoftBank for a follow-on round, what will it mean considering Nikesh Arora is no longer there to helm affairs?
We don't have any portfolio where we worked or SoftBank is invested as follow-on in our companies, but I think SoftBank is an institution, right? And if they had committed, I had actually met him during the Prime Minister's startup event in January. He came and spoke. He's committing 10 billion. That's coming from SOM, right? So SoftBank as an institution continue to invest. I don't think it will have any impact on follow-ons, okay? The question is, will the focus and will the commitment made by SOM continue, right? And that's the question which probably you need to ask SOM directly, okay? Is he going to appoint a follow-on person to take the lead? And is he still committed to India? If he's committed, I don't think he'll have any material impact.
Right. Mohan, this is coming in a tough year. If you look at investments in the last few months, there's been a significant pullback. The only area where we are seeing any activity is at the angel and the seed level. So could this, act as a sentiment dampener? I know, that SoftBank comes in at late stages. They deploy huge amounts of capital in one go. But could this really dampen sentiment? Because, look at the tweets that are coming. Vijay Shekhar Sharma has said, oh boy, it's a huge blow. So do you think it could dampen sentiment from that perspective?
Look, I think he has been a prolific investor, as you said, right? Yes, it will have some dampening effect, okay, on the spirit. I think it's more, I would say, in terms of him as a person, okay. But if, as I said before, if SoftBank continues to invest in India, I think if a statement from him or SOM comes out, I don't think it should have any long-term impact. Yeah, the short term, yes, people will be shocked.
Fundamentally, nothing has changed, but in terms of the impact that this could have, Mohan Kumar, you said follow-on rounds, will not be impacted. But, the factor of the matter is, with no Nikesh Arora at SoftBank, with Lee Fixel also, slowing things down at Tiger Global, where is the big money for, the Series B, Series C rounds going to come from? Where will the strategic investors come from? Because on the one hand, you have Amazon and Uber, which have raised huge sums of money. Flipkart has been struggling. Snapdeal, people thought, had an advantage because it had SoftBank with it. Do you think the India picture, the India flavor for SoftBank could come down now with Nikesh Arora not being there? That's what I want to understand. Will they fundamentally continue to be positive about India, or will that change now? Will they, start maybe calibrating their investments, bringing them down?
Follow-on investment from the SoftBank, okay? I think they are not too ready. There are enough venture funds who can do Series B, C, D. I could name like 20, 30 funds who could fund that Series B, C, D right up to $50, $75 million checks in India, right? And a fundamentally strong company which has got the business model proven, okay, and unit economics works. I don't think there will be any issue on follow-on round, okay? Now, the question you're asking is why some of these large companies are not able to raise money like Softbank after Softbank and take a pull out. That's more to do with the specific company. Okay, have they performed with respect to what the goals they have set? Okay, or the valuation they have garnered in the last round? Okay, if the answer is no, it doesn't matter. Okay, you will not get a follow-on round. Okay, so you got to separate the fundamentals of the company with the fund availability. Okay, so my view is there is enough funds for the right company, okay, who's showing the right business model and growth. There is money available. Okay, the companies which are gone way out of bound with respect to the current performance and their valuation, I think it's going to be a struggle. Okay, and you should not mix that up with Softbank or Nikesh Arora's exit. Okay?
All right, Mr. Mohan, I'm just going to take this discussion to Mahesh Murthy again. Mahesh, just wanted to understand the same thing. The focus on India's startup ecosystem as far as SoftBank is concerned has risen by multifold in the last 1 year. In fact, it's become the central point of their international investments, thanks to Nikesh Arora being at the top of at the helm of affairs. Now that he is gone, how much of a setback is it for the Indian startup ecosystem? How much do you think that India will sort of go out of favor as a key destination to invest?
No, none of that. I mean, I think all of this is being completely overblown. It's not like, Nikesh Arora was the world's greatest venture capitalist in India or anything of that sort, and now we're all going to be worse off without him. He came here, he tried to do a job. I mean, please understand, SoftBank has moved on. The issue is actually out here where the reason he left was because probably the CEO and board did not have confidence in him being able to take on the chairmanship position of SoftBank, which was offered to him soon enough. And Masayoshi Son basically said, look, because of this setback, I'm going to have to run this place for another 5 years before you can take over, at which point, probably in a fit of pique, Nikesh Arora left. But let's look at it in realistic terms. So they invested at the top of the market last year. People should have the ability to weather downturns and upturns. It was just maybe bad investments or bad evaluations or a bad timing or some combination of that. In venture capital, you basically have the ability to tolerate all of this because you look at this over an 8-10 year cycle. One manager coming or one manager going is not going to make any difference. In fact, if you ask me, it's very healthy for the Indian ecosystem because we are not going to have ridiculous, nonsensical valuations. We're going to have far more realistic valuations, which means we actually have the chance of exits. We are not going to end up with companies like Flipkart who can't find the next round at the right valuation because they've been overfunded by some over-enthusiastic investor. Net, it's fine. This is just basically rationality coming back into the business, and there's nothing to feel bad about. It's perfectly all right.
I'm just going to take this to K. Ganesh, who also joins us via Skype. Mr. Ganesh, this question of whether Nikesh Arora's exit will sort of tone down the flavor that India has been as far as investing in startups for international venture capitalists go. Do you think any of that is going to happen? Also, Mahesh was just talking about how SoftBank entered the Indian market at the peak of their valuations, and we've seen all of them drop and find setback after setback in the last 1 year. How do you assess this situation? Nikesh Arora gone, and they have invested into the Indian market in the last 1 year at the peak of their valuations.
Yeah, no, I think this is the entire question of valuation and cycle is something that all of us.
All right, we seem to be having a little bit of a connectivity issue with Mr. Ganesh, but I'm just going to take this back to Mr. Mohan Kumar. Do we have Mr. Ganesh? All right, I think we seem to be, we have Mr. All right, we don't have Mr. Ganesh. I'm just going to take this back to Mahesh quickly. Mahesh, you just were talking about how they entered the market at the peak of valuations, and now, a year down the line, these valuations don't really sound all that sane. Doesn't that mean it's a lot problematic for SoftBank to continue investing in India?
They come in, it's only problematic if you invest at ridiculous valuations and make ridiculous bets. A lot of the bets that were made, whether it was in an OYO or it was in a Zoho or it was in an Ola or it was in housing or it was in Inmobi, every one of those companies has kind of down-rounded, right? So it may not have been the wisest of investments. Just because you make some unwise investments or you have an inexperienced investor come and throw money around doesn't mean the India thesis is bad. The India thesis is perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. What it needs is rational investors who don't overpay for assets. I think that's what it is. And hopefully whoever Nikesh's replacement is at Softbank is going to come in with a far more rational approach and say, look, I'm not going to overpay. I'm not going to throw money around and make, and look for unicorns. I'm just going to grow real companies as opposed to fluff. And I think it's a really healthy sign for all of us in India. I don't know what the entire, beating and wailing is. All the chest beating and wailing comes from people who are overfunded at ridiculous valuations. Each of those guys can't get a next round at a decent valuation. I think people were phenomenally lucky to get the prices they got last year. I think we should all understand the world has changed. And, it's if you want over the long term, entrepreneurship to survive and thrive in India, everything has to be done at reasonable prices. You cannot have ridiculous valuations.
All right, Mr. Mohan Kumar, would you agree with what Mr. Mahesh Murthy was just telling us? Softbank entered India and bought at the top of all valuations, and a year down the line, the world has changed. So would you say it's going to be problematic for anybody who steps into Nikesh Arora's shoes?
I think whoever entered, is not just Softbank. Whoever entered in the last 18 months and paid a huge price, right? I think the market cannot support it now, So it's an industry-wide effect, and Softbank is obviously did that in India, right? And look, venture is measured over a 10-year period, I don't think you can say a particular fund or a particular manager is good based on 1 year, Really takes 8 to 10 years to see whether your bet is made or not, So I would say the jury is not out, whether Softbank's investment is good or bad, And for some of the companies, if they do extremely well and grow fast, they may be lucky to get a premium over the valuation they paid. If they don't perform, which we won't know until for the next 4 or 5 years, right? They will lose all the money. So I agree with Mahesh. I don't think you can measure someone over a year. It is a 10-year period. You got to have a sustained capacity, sustained investment thesis, and show that you get the company at the right price, help them build an exit. Finally, you have to exit. So today, I think the last 1.5 years, Indian market is more giving disproportionate attention in the media attention to the money going in. I think you should look at money going out. I think that's where the focus should be.
All right, Mahesh, you seem to be having somebody like Mr. Mohan Kumar, who does agree with you, Mahesh. But I wanted to ask you this, you have to can't deny the fact that Nikesh Arora was the poster boy as far as Indian startup ecosystem is concerned, in terms of bringing all the funding in. Some of the bets in the last 1 year, be it Snapdeal, they've even bought, but questions like, how adept was he, in terms of that Coupang buy that they did in Korea, which didn't turn out all that well, for Softbank. They bought they picked up a stake for $1 billion, which valued Coupang in Korea at $5 billion. But that company reported several millions of dollars of losses, the worst ever in their last year. Would you, how much do you think, how would you rate Mr. Nikesh Arora as somebody who pulls the trigger?
So, Nikesh, from what I know, is a good professional. I'm not so sure, he is a good investor or necessarily a good venture capitalist. I don't know. The jury's out. We don't know. There's no data yet. What was interesting, you talked about him being a poster boy. The fact is that in some strange mix of him and media, a bunch of people anointed him Messiah of venture capital in India, Investor of the Year, Indian of the Year. Nonsense for somebody who barely made 2 investments in India ever, right? So we went overboard. We went and made him a hero. And when it just turned out that maybe this wasn't his year, or maybe he wasn't a hero, who knows, right? So the entire inflation of the balloon and the deflation of the balloon is our creation. Finally, at the end of the day, why did he leave? It's just a simple professional issue. Softbank is a Lalaji company, or whatever, it's a public limited company. This guy is a professional. He was supposed to become a chairman in a particular period of time. After his last results, obviously he was censured somewhere and said that, okay, no, you're not getting the chairmanship for another 5 years. So he said, okay, I'm leaving. That's about it, right? So, that's how a regular professional behaves. It's not how an entrepreneur behaves or a VC behaves. But he did a job. He was there for a job. He was paid and he moved on because it didn't fit whatever he wanted. That's all it is. Let's not really, we created the poster boy and we are now bringing him down. Neither of this is any reflection on the Indian ecosystem. We have great entrepreneurs. We're doing great companies. The country is growing. GDP is up. As long as we don't play ridiculous prices, overpay, and create overvalued companies which can't exit, we are going to be fine. There's nothing wrong with us systemically, secularly. We are growing. We are fine. Everything is positive. We are one of the hottest investment destinations in the world. All you've got to make sure is you don't pay ridiculous amounts of money. And, listen, all the guys who are bemoaning the loss, because the poor guy, he was just used to throwing around a lot of money. He had a bunch of money to manage. I mean, SoftBank said, there's an approach. They came with $2 billion. Most people would say, yeah, I'll put that in 50 companies. He put that in 4 companies or whatever, right? Now, each of those 4 companies is hurting very much, right? Because you don't go and put 3,500 crores in each company expected to do well. So these are bad investment decisions, or who knows, maybe, I don't know, maybe the jury's out too soon, but it just certainly seems in an 18-month period, all of these decisions are bad. And he got censured and he decided to move because he didn't get the top job. That's all it is. It's the real story here is that he was offered the top job, it was taken away from him, and he said, I'm taking my ball and going home, I'm not going to stay here. That's all it is. Let's not make it a discussion in the Indian startup ecosystem. It's one professional whose boss pulled away a job offer from him, which was promised to him, so he decided to move on. That's the story. All of this stuff of, chest beating and crying in the Indian ecosystem is just hullabaloo. It's got nothing to do with reality.
Okay, I guess we finally have K. Ganesh on a clean line. Ganesh, want to get closing comments from you. The larger implications that this could have. And finally, do you think that this will spell, some reality check that the billion-dollar valuations, the $100 million fundraising for Series A, Series B is going to go away, and we will be sort of back to reality. The glamour, the sexiness sort of goes away from the startup ecosystem.
No, I actually, while this came as a surprise, this particular incident has got any larger implication for the Indian startup ecosystem or entrepreneurs. The valuation cycle is something that we are used to up and down. I don't think one individual or one company can move it. But fundamentally, what Softbank did and what Nikesh Arora did is show that the Indian startup ecosystem has got enough depth. Enough large companies can be created. I agree that we still have to create those and we need to see exist. But for the next 5 to 10 years, I think the opportunity in India to be able to build large companies, to be able to disrupt and solve core basic problems so that the consumer gets US or European standards of products and services is unquestioned. So I don't think it will affect. I think it's a great service. I'm sure SoftBank will invest further. Just because they invested 4 companies in 18 months and one individual was heading it as change, I don't see anything at all of concern to Indian startup ecosystem. Obviously, he was a bull on India. He invested aggressively in India. He was sold in India, as all of us in this panel and Indian startup ecosystem are. Therefore, I'm slightly disappointed. Okay, right? But that's all there is to it. I'm trying to extract more out of this because there is no other opportunity in the world today. If you see US, if you see China, those are all gone. Where will investors put money in? It is in India. Maybe not at this valuation, at a lower valuation, not 100 billion, but 50 million. All those are cycles and corrections of the cycle. Okay, right? But fundamental opportunity next to 5 to 10 years in India for large investors to come in and build in India, solve the core problems and build world-class companies and give world-class products and services to Indian consumers is unquestioned in my mind.
Right. Ganesh, it's good to hear you being so optimistic on the India story. But, if you were the founder of, say, a Snapdeal, Ola, a housing or an InMobi, going through a slightly difficult patch at this point in the market to raise funds, and you do not have Nikesh Arora as president, but only as advisor, what would you be going through?
No, I think, like I mentioned, they are one company in the entire ecosystem. You have multiple private equity players, strategic players, Chinese corporations. You just heard of Proposal Group making a 1.27 billion offer for Gland Pharma. Okay, right? Look at the opportunities which private companies, including Japanese companies, including Chinese conglomerates have. There is nowhere else to go. So, I've said that there is one person out of one company out of an entire bunch of investors is lesser. Yes. Is it going to make me lose sleep? Is it going to make the funding into Indian ecosystem come down? Absolutely not. And it's not that SoftBank is withdrawing from from India. I'm sure the opportunity was not created by Nikesh Arora, was not being created by one individual. So it's not going to go away with one individual. That we are an Indian, that we are somebody who is familiar with India, who has been in Google, who understands technology, all of that are nice things to have, right? But nothing is going to change. There are so many other investors. So much of money will come in. Now, valuation up and down is a cycle. I'm not questioning whether the companies that you mentioned, the names that you mentioned, whether the valuation that is they raised money, was that right? Will they be able to raise at higher valuation, or will they raise at the same valuation or slightly lower valuation? I don't know. The valuation, the price somebody invests in is a function of demand and supply. It happens with all, even listed companies. Valuations go up, valuations go down. But fundamentally, the number of transactions Ola is doing, number of rides, the number of transactions that Big Basket is delivering, they delivered last month a million orders a month. That is unquestioned. Now, that India has moved on. Between 5 years back, when people used to wait in queues to buy grocery or to negotiate with people or wait in retail stores, India has moved on from there. People are going to demand convenience. They buy millions from Flipkart, from Snapdeal, from Big Basket, from take Ola, take Uber, and all that stuff. That is irreversible trend. And your companies brought in a lot of capital to India, like Softbank, like Tiger Global. Companies like those all have done great service to India to raise the level of services for the consumer. Now, because some of them have slowed down, some of them have had managerial changes, am I going to get affected deeply? Absolutely not.
Okay. Ganesh, some of the people who were throwing big money here include the likes of Tiger Global and Softbank. Tiger Global has gone quiet big time in the last year, except for maybe, the Nestaway investment that they came in at. Softbank too has been largely silent in the last few months. So, if you have to really go out and raise a huge round of funding to counter the likes of Amazon or even Uber, which raised a mega round recently, who would you go to? I mean, is it going to be the sovereign funds that will come to rescue you now?
Yeah, so there are new sovereign funds, there are large conglomerates, there are Chinese corporations who are all looking at that. There are also players who looked at it last year, but because the valuations are high, not pull the trigger. Those people are all waiting now. They see now that the valuations are more reasonable. This is the time to enter in India. See, what has this shown? It has shown that you can have unicorns from India. It has shown that you can have a company valued at $15 billion in India. Just 4 years back, it was unthinkable. But it has shown that a company like Ola can come in, start, compete with a world global company like Uber in terms of neck to neck, in terms of product, in terms of technology, in terms of services they launch and ability to raise money. So all those, we have just moved on and leapfrogged like that. So all of that means that people who missed out last year, so some of them missed out deliberately because they found the valuations to be high. Some of them were waiting. Some of the other Chinese corporations and Japanese corporations which want to enter India, like today morning in Economic Times, there was things talk about Walmart wanting to come into India. Okay, right? So for companies like those hot valuations or high valuations was too much to digest. But now they will see that the fact that the depth is there in the Indian market, the ability to scale is there, the ability to get valuation marked up is there. They will find these valuations are attractive to come in. So I think it's an irreversible one-time flip that has happened in the last 18 months. I don't think we should worry about and cry about some funds moving out or slowing down. We shouldn't worry about valuations coming down. Maybe it will be at lower valuations, maybe a smaller ticket sizes. But India is there. Next to 5 to 10 years, you will see capital, world-class being created.
All right, Mr. Ganesh, I think we have a consensus among all three of our panelists, be it Mr. Mohan Kumar or Ganesh or Mahesh Murthy, that one, Nikesh Arora stepping down will not affect the Indian startup ecosystem. And what has happened over the last 18 months is an irreversible process. That's very clear. I'm just going to, take closing comments, starting with Mr. Mohan Kumar, who's been waiting patiently on the phone line for us. Mr. Mohan Kumar, one last question. How would you rate Nikesh Arora as an investor, considering the fact that he was the man who's supposed to take charge of SoftBank in the future, and now he's not part of SoftBank anymore. At least he's there only as an advisor for the next year or so, and then he's out of SoftBank completely. How would you rate Nikesh Arora as an investor, and how much impact he had on the Indian startup ecosystem?
Yeah, you know what? It's very difficult to say. It takes about 10 years to say someone is a good investor or not. Okay, so 1 year is too short. I can't comment on whether his investment is going to do good or bad. Okay, but going by the track record of what I saw recently, I think at least half his investments are not performing well as per what you have seen. Okay, so it's too early to say. Okay, or it's too short to say. Let's put it that way.
All right, Mohan Kumar, with that, it's very clear, Chandra, that be it Mohan Kumar or Mr. Ganesh or Mr. Mahesh Murthy, all three of them are, there's a clear consensus over here. One, Nikesh Arora stepping down will not affect the Indian startup ecosystem. Where else will investors invest in the future? If it's not US, if it's not China, then it's got to be India. And I can't help but remember what Travis Kalanick, founder and CEO of Uber, said when he came to India. There are only 3 bays where innovations and startups happen. One is Bay Area, California, one is Beijing in China, and the other is Bangalore here in India. And with that, Chandra, I'm going to hand it back to you in Bengaluru. Nikesh Arora stepping down. This is clearly the season of resignations, and I can't help but notice the similarity coming in a matter of 48 hours of 72 hours. I've heard that Brexit inspired a lot of people to quit their own jobs. Chandra, what about you with this one?
I hope you're not asking about my job, Krishna, but clearly no comparisons between Nikesh Arora and Brexit. I mean, Nikesh, completely different reasons playing, and a very candid Masayoshi Son who said, I'm going to continue for the next 5 to 10 years.
He feels very young, is what he
really
said,
can't
Chandra.
take that away from him.
At the age of 58, he feels very young.
So, yeah, but good to hear panelists being optimistic for now. I think there will be some silent relief that there's finally going to be some level of rational valuations, and the irrational exuberance will sort of quieten down with Nikesh leaving SoftBank. But this is, at least from a perception, from an impact point of view, it will dampen sentiment, no doubt. He clearly took the Indian startup and internet ecosystem by storm, Krishna. But he has a huge bank balance, so maybe he'll deploy it on his own as an investor here. We'll have to wait and see about that.
Chandra?
But with that, we come to the end of this special edition of ET Now Startup Central.
Chandra, you talk about huge bank balance. I just did a back of the envelope calculation. Just for the last year, he made about $73 million, which is about 500 crore rupees. And before that, he was paid about $134 million. That's about 1,000 crore rupees. His bank balance for the last year and a half alone is about worth 1,500 crore rupees. And that's worthy enough to fund many startups across the country and in India. And with that, we wrap things up here on the special edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thank you so much for watching. You don't go anywhere. Keep watching ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.